Hi everyone. My name is Raphael Peter Gale. Raphael R, as you can see. So I'm here to give a detailed history of the Eggon people of present-day Nasarawa State in Nigeria. I'm an Eggon person, as you can see. I don't know if you can see it. I'm a Eggon, meaning I'm an Eggon person. I'm here to give a detailed history of the Eggon people. By training, I'm not a historian, but I'm a microbiologist. As a scholar, therefore, I painstakingly took my time to research about my people, that's the Eggon people, extensively. And so I'm here to give you like a detailed history of where the Eggon people migrated or came from to be in the present day Nasarawa State. So if you're here because of this video, please sit back, relax, and listen to the history of my people. But let me quickly add again, this docu series is not to create, shall I say, division among the people or amongst people. The essence of this series is because I realized that so many people are not really in tune or don't really understand the history of their language, especially the Eggon sons and daughters. And so that's why I took my time to research about these people and then to make a video about it. I also understand that so many people must have read some history online. And, you know, when you watch a video, you tend to remember better than when you read a text. And so as a lecturer, I decided to research extensively to now make a video like this so that the younger ones who are not aware of the history of where they are coming from, they could actually watch a video like this to have a better understanding of the history of their own people. So yeah, that is the essence of this video. And this video as well could as well serve as, shall I say, a reference or a literature where other people, other researchers could actually refer to it and get to know more about our people. So yeah, that's the essence of this video. Okay, so from the literatures I read, I've come to realize or found out that the Eggon people could actually be traced back to Ngazargamu, also called Birnin Ngazargamu. Ngazargamu was the capital of Bornu Empire around 1460 to 1809. So Birni in Hausa means city. So Birnin Ngazargamu was the capital of Bornu Empire, Kanem Bornu Empire as of 15th century. And if you watched my video that I did on the history of Anene, which is later changed to Lafia, history of Lafia, you could hear me talking about the relationship between the Kanem Borno Empire and the Kororofa Kingdom. I told you in that video that Kanem Borno Empire and the Kororofa Kingdom were formerly together, and then they had some misunderstanding, and then the Kororofa Kingdom decided to migrate to the present-day Wukari in Taraba State. Now, the Eggon people were part of the people that left, that's the Kororofa Kingdom, to present-day Wukari in Taraba State. But then Ngazargamu, which was the capital of Borno, Kanem Borno Empire, is now present-day Yobe State. It's quite close to Gaidam in Yobe State. Now, in Kororofa Kingdom, there are different, should I say, people. I want to refer to ethnic groups or tribes as people at this stage. So in Kororofa Kingdom, there were different people, right? And why do people migrate? One is either because of misunderstanding, or people are looking for a greener pastures, or people are looking for where they could hunt better, or people are looking for, should I say, expansion. So there are so many reasons why people migrate, right? And again, during migration, sometimes around 15th century, 18th century, 16th century, 17th, 18th, and even 19th century, there were still migration between different kingdoms. And so in Kororofa Kingdom, there are kind of division based on dialect. And so there are Jukonoites, and then there are Benoites. The Jukonoids comprises of ethnic groups like the Jukun in Taraba State. You have the Gmai, or other people call them Ankwai, in Plateau State, around Shandam, Kwande, and the rest. And then you have people like the Alagos in Nasarawa State. You have even people like Idoma in present-day Benue State. So these are some of the languages that comprises the Jukonoid. And if you know Alago people very well, you could relate their culture with that of Gmai people. If you know Gmai people and Kwai people in Plateau State, you could see their culture is similar with that of the Jukun people in Taraba State. Those are the Jukonoids. I'm not saying they are the only Jukonoid. There are other Jukonoids. Then the Benuet, where the Eggon people are found, you have the people like the Tiv, you have the Eggons, you have the Rindre, that's the Nungu, you have the Taro or Tarok in Plateau State. In fact, in Tarok, for you to say, come and eat food, in Tarok is Ba Riempang. I grew up in Plateau. In fact, I was born in around that place, so I understand what I'm saying in Tarok. Ba Riempang. In Eggon, come and eat food is Bari Alorg. You could see the dialect, you could see the dilation, you could see how they sound almost the same thing. And so, the Eggons are part of the Benuit. So, in migration, these people migrated together. In fact, history has it that the Eggons migrated together with the Rindres, that's the Nungus. The Nungus are found also in Nasarawa State towards the Wamba local government, present-day Wamba local government. Now, the Benuit, or the Benuit, talking about people like the Eggons, the Rindres, the Tarok people in Plateau State, and other, and even Afo, for example, they are referred to as hill dwellers. These are people that prefer to live in hilly areas, right? Now, I told you, why do people migrate? Now, history has it that when the Eggons or the Benuits migrated from the Kororofa kingdom around 15th or 16th century, they migrated down through the Benue River, which is also referred to as the Benue Basin, down to around Benue-Niger confluence. If you follow history, Benue-Niger confluence, that's around present-day Lokoja or Nasarawa Toto, those places. That's where they migrated to. I'm not saying only the Eggon, like the Rindres, do you understand what I'm saying? The Benue now. While others stopped in, let's say, Benue, Boko, and the rest, migration, people keep migrating like that. So they migrated to the Benue-Niger confluence. That's where they were before. And again, due to migration, due to expansion, these people, that's the Eggon people, migrated from that places down to the present-day Nasarawa State. And now, when they got to present-day Nasarawa State, that is their location, they were formerly living on those hills. On your way from Lafia to, let's say, Akwanga or Abuja, you could see those mountains there. Those mountains are actually called the Eggon Hills. Other people refer to them as Mada Hills. So when they came, they were actually living in those mountains. That's where they were formerly residing. That was their settlement there in the mountains. And so these people were living in these mountains. And somebody may want to ask me, so where did the name Eggon came from? Remember, before now, I was referring to them as Jukonoid or Benuit or these people. So when they finally settle on these mountains, the name Eggon was actually derived from this mountain. In fact, the pronunciation is Eggon, right? Eggon. In Eggon means an act or the ability to hear clearly. Your ability to hear clearly, that's what I would now say Eggon. like to hear something. So that is where the name came from. Why are they now pronouncing it as Eggon? Eggon is actually the adulteration or the corrupted version of the original pronunciation of the original name by the missionaries that were around there as of then, that came, should I say, the colonial masters, because they were unable to pronounce it the way the people were pronouncing it, so they corrupted the name. That's how you got Egon today. But the original meaning or the original spelling is Egon. That is the original spelling. So that's how the name came about. Now you understand how the name of the Eggon came about. Because they were living at the mountain top, they have the ability to hear and to see the invaders clearly. So the people, now I'll be referring to the people as the Eggon people now. So the Eggon people refer to themselves as Eggon or Eggon. But then the Hausas that were living with them before, the Hausa traders, because they too were unable to pronounce the correct name, so they were referring to them as Madan Duse. Duse means stone, that's mountain. You could see where the name came from, Madan Duse, because the Egons were formerly living or settled at the mountain top. They are now referring to the Madas as Madan Kasa. The Madan Kasa are found in Andaha originally, but then they can be found in Akwanga local government, present the Akwanga local government. So now that's how the Egons are being referred to as Madandusi by the Hausas or the Hausa traders that were formerly transacting with them. Some of them were actually miners because of the mining activities that was happening around Alizaga back then. So even though the Egons are different from the Madas or the Rindres, they share some similar cultural beliefs, and some of their practices, they share almost similar beliefs, because you could see they were actually Benue, they were actually the same kind of people. But migration, settlement, change in pronunciation or your language, how you communicate and the rest will actually come into play. So do not mistaken the Egons for the Madas, because outside Nasarawa state, some people could actually refer to an Eggon man as a Madaman or vice versa. But these are two different people, although they share to some extent similar cultural beliefs. Now, the Eggons or the Eggon ethnic group is divided into three major clans. So you have the Eggon Anzo, you have the Eggon Ehlo, and then you have the Eggon Ero, right? And so the Eggons were divided into three major clans. However, in each of these clans, there are different clans, again, should I say sub-clans? Yeah, you have more than 20 different sub-clans or different intonations in Eggon. In case if you are watching this video and you're not aware, there are more than 20 different sub-clans in the three major clans I talked about in Eggon ethnic group. So you should understand this thing. And that's why you could see Eggons are scattered almost everywhere as we speak today. Even though formerly they were formerly mountain dwellers, but as time goes on, they came down to the lowland to live in different parts of the state as we speak. So I'll be talking about the population and the locations where the Eggon people could actually be found. You see, before all this migration, or before the creation of states, or even before the amalgamation of the northern and the southern protectorate, the people were actually living on their own. There was nothing like states. What was in existence then was kingdoms or empires, right? So if I'm talking, cast your mind back to around 15 or 14 or 16 centuries. Don't just limit your thinking to present day Nasarawa state. Cast your mind back to where we came from, right? So during state creation, we were formerly Benue Plateau in Middle Belt, Nigeria. In fact, even the colonial masters refer to Middle Belt as Middle Belt. It was not referred to as North Central. It was referred to as Middle Belt, right? or central Nigeria, present-day central Nigeria. So before now, we were Benue Plateau. And Benue Plateau comprises of so many parts of, let's say, Kaduna State, Plateau State, present-day Nasarawa State, uh, part of Taraba State, and then Benue State today. These are actually the Benue Basin, the Benue Plateau region. So the states were now split into Benue State and Plateau State. The Eggons are more to the Plateau State, what was referred to as the Lower Plateau back then, right? So the Eggons could actually be found in present-day Nasarawa State. They can be found in Plateau State. They can also be found in Kaduna State and other places that the Eggons could actually be found in a sizable number. However, indigenously and where the Eggons can be found in high number is actually in Nasarawa State. In Nasarawa State, Eggons could actually be found in high proportion in Nasarawa Eggon local government, in Lafia local government, in Kefi, in Akwanga, in Wamba, in Nasarawa, part of Doma, Kiana, Obi, Asakio. What I'm trying to tell you is the Eggon people can be found almost in all the local government of Nasarawa State. If you're watching this video, if you're from Nasarawa State, you understand what I'm saying. But if you're not from Nasarawa State, this is the reality. And that is why the Eggons are to some extent the most populous ethnic group in Nasarawa State. There are other ethnic groups that are actually in high number, like the Alagos and the rest, you understand. But then Eggons are the most populous ethnic group in Nasarawa State as we speak today. So like I said, the Eggons are predominant and indigenous to Nasarawa State. And in fact, according to a research by a professor of history, it's called the Joshua Project, they estimated the total number of Eggons to be around 288,000 to 300,000 in Nasarawa State. You could see why I talked about being one of the most populous ethnic groups in Nasarawa State. So now that I've given you, shall I say, a background of where the people migrated from to the present day Nasarawa State, I just want to talk briefly about conquest. I want to talk about their religion, and I want to talk about the rulership. So the conquest, the Eggons were never taken into slavery or subdued by the colonial masters. They were never conquered by even Usman Danfodio's jihad of around 1804 to 1808. The Eggons were never conquered. They were never conquered. And this is because the Eggons were formerly warriors, and so they could actually fight and defend themselves. And again, because they were living in the mountain tops, they were caves. In fact, today, if you go to Eggon Hills, there are caves that you could actually go inside and see where our ancestors or our great-grandfathers were actually residing or hiding inside. So these are some of the two major reasons why the Eggons were never conquered. Another reason was because the Eggons were traditionalists. And so they refused to accept any religion that would go against their tradition, either the Christianity that was brought by the missionaries or Islam that was brought from the far north. So because of these two reasons, they were trying to protect their own tradition. They fought and defeated the invaders, so they were never conquered. In fact, even the Secretary General to the governor then, that's Sir Lord Lugard, captured it in his own memoir of 1912. He described the Eggon people as the notorious warlike pagans that were never captured by any other person. I will repeat that again. The Secretary General to the former governor of that region, Frederick Lord Lugard, the secretary, described in his memoir of 1912, he described the Eggon people as notorious warlike pagans that were never captured by anyone. Now, referring to the Eggons as pagans then was not an insult. That was because back then, most of the people in the middle belt or in the middle region of in the middle belt region of Nigeria were traditional worshippers. And if you're not an Islam or a Christian, you're regarded as a pagan. Paganism is actually a religion. So don't mistake him referring to the Eggons as pagans as insult. No, paganism is actually an African tradition. So that was how he described Eggon to that extent that the Eggons are actually warriors and they were never captured by anyone. So that's about conquest. And then about religion. The Eggon people, because I told you they were formerly traditionalists, the name of their tradition is called the Ashim. I don't want to refer to it as a cult, but the name of their tradition is referred to as Ashim, right? And then the Eggons believed that there is Ahogme. Ahogme means Almighty God. The Eggons believe that there is Ahogme, which is who reside high above the skies. They believe that Ahogme is the one that has been protecting them and blessing their farmland, blessing their women, helping them to multiply, to defend themselves against the foreign invaders. So Ahogme is God in Eggon. However, the Eggons again believe that you and I won't be able to talk to Ahogme directly, but for us to be able to talk to Ahogme, we need to go through the chief priest. And the chief priest is referred to as Andashim. I told you the tradition is called Ashim. The chief priest that will have to communicate to Ahogme, which is the god, is referred to as Andashim. So, for the Eggons to talk to Ahogme, to God, to bless their farmland, to bring rain, to bless their farmland, for them to go to farm, they need to talk to Ahogme through Andashim, which is the chief priest. Now, before the coming of missionaries or any system of government, the Eggons were living according to their clans. And in each of these clans that I told you, the three major clans, the leadership or the rulership of those clans were saddled in the hands of the elders. So the elders in that or in those communities are actually the leaders. And the elders are referred to as Mwandakbo. Mwandakbo means the elders. And Dakbo means one person. And Dakbo means one person. Mwandakbo means the elders. So the elders back then were the rulers of those sub-clans. That's before any form of government. Now, because the Eggons were warriors and because the Eggons were self-governed, they have a well-structured, shall I say, government that they govern themselves. The Eggons refused to accept anything foreign from the, shall I say, the missionaries or the colonial masters or any other system of government. They believe they can actually govern themselves. Now, when the colonial masters conquered Lafia back then in 1903, thereabout, and they conquered Kefi Zone in 1904, the Eggon area was never conquered, like I said. Now, when these Eggons heard that the Lafia zone and the Kefi zone were conquered by the colonial masters in 1903 and 1904 respectively, the Eggons became more agitated. They became more angry. They became more aware that whatsoever will touch their land, they will never accept it. In fact, if I want to digress a bit, some of you heard about the, shall I say, unfortunate incidents that happened to one of the missionaries, or shall I say, one of the colonial masters, Captain Campbell, in present-day Wulko in Nasarawa Eggon local government. I don't want to talk about that, but then some of you heard that the people had to, should I say, buy one of the captains that was coming to mine illegally in their land. So the Eggons never accepted that because they erected, like, shall I say, a flag or something to show that they are mining in that place. So Captain Campbell and Captain Paul were kind of lynched, but then, shall I say, sadly, Captain Campbell lost his life. So these are some of the historical facts to show you how the Eggons were actually protecting their territory, right? However, as time goes on, the colonial masters needed to, shall I say, have a system of governance to bring all the Eggons together, because the Eggons were kind of have a sub-clan, they have different clan, so they are kind of protecting themselves, they are living on their own, but then the colonial masters needed like a centralized system of government. And so to do that, the colonial masters appointed one Alhaji Bashai Yamusa. Bashai Yamusa is actually a Fulani man from Kefi district. In fact, present-day royal family in Kefi is actually of the Yamusa family lineage. So Yamusa, Bashai Yamusa, who was a Fulani man, but his mother was an Eggon woman. Now you're getting the gist. Although his father was Fulani, his mom was an Eggon woman. So he was appointed in 1919 to, shall I say, for administrative purposes and for better communication, because back then, Yamusa seems to understand the colonial system of government. So the colonial masters appointed him for shall I say, easy, shall I say, to ease communication and for administrative purposes. I told you about that. But then he was dethroned, or shall I say, relieved of his duty in 1925, June 1925. That was when he was relieved of his duty. And he was relieved because of high-handedness, and then maybe the missionaries were thinking Bashai was trying to convert the people, that's the Eggon people, to Islam. So the missionaries were kind of, shall I say, angered, and that was why they relinquished him from his duties. So after relinquishing Bashai Yamusa of his administrative role, they now appointed an indigenous Eggon person. His name was Mr. Alombugu Otawe. Alombugu Otawe was now appointed as the first indigenous Eggon person to like kind of be the centralized leader of the Eggon people in 1926. He ruled till September 1942. He ruled for 16 years as the first indigenous Eggon person to become the leader of the centralized Eggon government. So he was appointed in 1926 until 1942, when he was relieved of his duty. So Mr. Alombugu Otawe was the first indigenous Eggon person to become the leader of the centralized government in Eggon land. Now, Mr. Otawe, or Alombugu Otawe, was dethroned because of his, shall I say, he was highly traditional. He was protecting the interests of the Eggon instead of protecting the interests of the missionaries or the colonial masters. And what is this interest? They were formerly collecting taxes from all these people, and then they were miners. You heard about the tin mining in Jos, the tin mining in Alizagada's Nasarawa Eggon area, and the rest. So Alombugu was actually protecting the Eggon people, and he was not accepting any other religion apart from the traditional worshipping. That's the Ashim. So these are some of the things that made the colonial masters to dethrone Mr. Alumbugu Otsawe. And Alumbugu, history has it that he was a charismatic leader that was loved by almost everybody in Igonland. All the three clans admired his system of rulership because he was protecting their interests. So, because he was going against what the colonial masters wanted, as a warrior and as someone that has never been conquered, he was being, I don't want to use stubborn, but then he never agreed to be subdued by these people. And because they were the ones that appointed him, they now removed him from office, like I told you, in September 1942. So after the dethronement of Mr. Alumbugu Otsawe in September 1942, the colonial government appointed his son, Mr. Abimuku Alumbugu Otsawe, in that September 1942, and he ruled as the caretaker chief of the Eggon centralized government until June 1943. So Mr. Abimiku Alumbugu ruled for about 6 to 9 months as the caretaker chief. Then after this period, there was 10 years, should I say, absence of any centralized leader of the Eggon people. This was because of so many reasons. One, because of the resistance of the Eggon people. Two, because of what happened to Captain Campbell in Egonland. And three, because the Eggon people were kind of recalcitrant. They refused to be subdued. They refused to abide by what the colonial masters wanted. And this was because the Eggons were having their own system of government. I told you about the Moandakbo. So the colonial masters felt that the Eggon people were listening more to their own system of government than what they wanted. So after when Mr. Abimiku Alumbugu Otsawe was, should I say, relieved from his duty as the caretaker chief of the Eggon centralized government in June 1943, there was a relapse for 10 years. That's from 1943 to 1953. There was no centralized leader of the Eggon people. Are you following me now? And so this 10 years period was believed to be because the colonial masters found out that the Eggon people were listening more to the Moandakbos, that's the elders in the clans, instead of doing what the colonial masters wanted, like paying tax, allowing them to mine their minerals in Alizaga or the Nasarawa Eggon area, and so many other reasons, and the issue of the demise of Campbell and Mr. Paul and the rest of the thing. So there were kind of crises between the different clan, in fact, that was caused by these people. That's the divide and rule mentality. So they now caused issues between these different Eggon clans. So these 10 years, there was no any centralized Eggon leader. 1943 to 1953, there was nobody. So in 1954, Mr. Patrick, who was the administrative officer of Akwanga Division back then, was saddled with the responsibility to introduce like an administrative leadership. So what he did was to appoint 3 different persons to, should I say, lead the 3 different clans in Eggon land, try to unite the Eggon people back again and try to see if the people will now accept the colonial rules and play by the books. So Mr. Patrick appointed Mr. Alu Agbi to be the administrative head of the Eggon Eholo. I told you about the 3 clans of Eggon, right? So Mr. Alu Agbi was the head of the Eggon Eholo. And Mr. Ongbolo Alafu Ume was appointed as the district head of the Eggon Ero. That's the Madantara. And then Mr. Angibi Ekwabla was appointed as the district head of the Eggon Anzo. So you have these 3 different persons that were appointed by Mr. Patrick as the district head of these 3 different Eggon clans. So they were the ones that were in charge of these clans until when the colonial masters felt that it's high time that they now appoint another centralized chief to look after the affairs of the Eggon ethnic group. And so to do that, they appointed Alhaji Abdullahi Ide. Alhaji Abdullahi Ide was or is from the Anzo clan. He was appointed to be the centralized chief and the third indigenous, shall I say, ruler or leader of the Eggon people. You can as well call it Eggon. So Alhaji Abdullahi Ide from the Anzo family became the third centralized leader of the Eggon people. Alhaji Ide was an accountant and also the treasurer of Akwanga division back then. So he was appointed on the 2nd of October 1953 to become the Eggon of the Eggon people. So he ruled, and in fact, during his time, in order for him to try to, like, shall I say, bring more harmony, unity, and understanding amongst the different clans in Eggon land, he introduced the EGDA, also referred to as the Eggon Cultural Development Association, sometimes in 1972. That was when he introduced EGDA to shall I say, promote unity, promote oneness, promote understanding amongst the Eggon people. Sadly, however, His Royal Highness Alhaji Abdullahi Ide, the third indigenous Eggon, died on the 6th of May 1981. Now, it was during his time that I told you he introduced EGDA, and during his time, they now introduced the system of kingmakers. So these are some of the major contributions of Alhaji Abdullahi Ide. He was, shall I say, said to be an outspoken person. He was a very good leader. He understands the system of government, both the colonial system of government and the traditional system of government, right? And Alhaji Abdullahi Ide was actually a Muslim, so he understands all the system, and he was a very, very charismatic and a very good leader of the Eggon people. You see, so like I said, it was during him that he introduced EGDA, and they introduced kingmakers. So he died on the 6th of May 1981. So Alhaji Abdullahi Ide ruled as the Eggon for 28 solid years. So after the demise of Alhaji Abdullahi Ide, the person that took over the seat pending when they will elect a substantive Eggon was Mr. Umbugala Alaku Envlu Akpoya. Mr. Umbugala was the Ezen. Ezen is another clan in Eggon land, or they are part of the Electoral College. So Umbugala was the Ezen that took over the seat of Eggon in acting capacity pending when they will elect a substantive Eggon. So, and he took over the seat for 2 months pending the substantive election. So, the next person that was democratically elected by the Electoral College that was set up by the former Eggon, that's Abdullahi Ide. The first democratically elected Eggon was His Royal Highness Bala Abene Angbazo. So Bala Abene Angbazo contested the seat of Eggon with other persons, like 8 different persons. Among them was Alhaji Adamu Musa Gale. That's where I'm from, right? So Bala Angbazo won the election on the second tie. The first time, they had 7-7 votes, while others had 1-1 vote, and others did not even have any vote among the 8 people that contested. So Mr. Bala Angbazo and Adamu Gale, they had a tie, 7-7 votes. And in order for the system to now elect the Eggon, the Ezen, that's the caretaker Eggon that acted for 2 months, had to now cast his own vote. So he casted in favor of His Royal Highness Mr. Bala Abene Angbazo. So that was how Mr. Bala Angbazo, His Royal Highness, may he so rest in peace, became the Are Eggon on the 11th day of July 1981. During his time, the stool of Are Eggon, back then we were still with Plateau State. All this history I'm giving you, we're still in Plateau State. So during His Royal Highness Bala Angbazo's reign, the Are Eggon stool was upgraded to a first-class status in 1982. Remember, we're still with Plateau State back then. All this history I'm telling you, Benue Plateau, now we're with Plateau. And Are Eggon, then we were in Lower Plateau. He was the second in command. After the Bongom Jos, Are Eggon was second in command. You see what I mean? He was a first-class chief, even while we're still in Plateau, and he was second in command. After Bongom Jos, as the, should I say, king of other kings in Plateau State, Are Eggon, that's His Royal Highness, Mr. Bala Abene Angbazo, was second in command. Sadly, on Wednesday, 13th of July 2022, the reign of His Royal Highness, Mr. Bala Abene Angbazo, came to an end. He died on Wednesday, 13th July 2022. His Royal Highness Bala Angbazo ruled as the Are Eggon for 41 years. After the demise of His Royal Highness Bala Abene Angbazo, the next person, or there was like 8 to 10 month period where there was no Are Eggon. And so the newly elected Are Eggon is Justice Ahmed Ubangari Alaku. He was a former Chief Justice or Chief Judge of the Nasarawa State Judiciary. Justice Ahmed Ubangari was elected Saturday, I guess, 6th of May 2023, after securing 2 votes out of the 3 votes of the 3 remaining kingmakers that were still alive. So all the kingmakers died, only 3 were remaining. So the 3 voted, and 2 voted for His Royal Highness Justice Ahmed Ubangari Alaku. And then he now became the new Are Eggon. Today that I'm recording this video, His Royal Highness Justice Ahmed Ubangari Alaku has been on the throne as the Are Eggon for about 5 months now, if you see what I mean. So that is the rundown of our history. Permit me to also add that in addition to being traditionalist and agrarian, the Eggons are actually exposed to Western education and Islamic education as well. In the Western education, we're having more than 30 to 50 professors of Eggon origin. That's apart from medical doctors and doctors, that's academic doctors, PhD holders. We have lots of engineers, we have quantity surveyors, we have pharmacists, we have generals in the army, we have top officers in the police force, in customs, in immigration. You have so many Eggon professionals that are doing very, very well in different facets of life. Let me also add that in politics, Eggon are actually doing well. Recently, the person that was declared as the duly elected governor of Nasarawa State is actually an Eggon person. His name is Right Honorable Dr. Emmanuel David Ombugadu. He was recently announced as the duly elected governor of Nasarawa State. So you can now see where I'm coming from and who the Eggon people really are. Now, that is it. You now have it. To give you a rundown, I told you the Eggons can be traced back to Ngazargamo, present-day Yobe State, which was former the capital of Kanamboron Empire. I told you how they migrated together with the Kororofa Kingdom, and then you had the Jukonoid and the Benoit, and then I told you the people that comprise the Jukonoid, I told you the people that are in the Benoit, I told you how they migrated down to Benue Niger confluence, that's around Lokoja, Nasarawa, Tutu, and the rest, how they now migrated down to the Eggon Hills, how the name Eggon was gotten from the mountains, that's the ability to hear clearly. I understand some people will now say, so what was their name before they became the Eggon people? I don't know what their name was. I don't know what their name was. Just like the Koro or the Migilis and the rest, they probably may have their own name before getting their new names. You see what I mean? So don't ask me what was their name before. But I told you that the present day name Eggon is gotten from the Eggon Mountains. And I told you is the, shall I say, the sense of hearing clearly and for them to actually see their invaders. I told you they were never conquered or never subdued by any forces, external forces. And I told you their kind of, shall I say, religion, the Ashim, the Andashim, the Hogme, and the rest. And I gave a rundown of the, shall I say, the rulership from Bashaya Musa, whose mother was Eggon, but his father was Fulani, that was appointed to, like, shall I take care of the administration of the Eggon people, after which Mr. Alumbugu Otsawe became the first indigenous Are Eggon, or the centralized leader of the Eggon people. After that, his son Abimiku Alumbugu Otsawe took over as a caretaker. After that, there was 10 years a period where there was no Eggon, and then Mr. Patrick now appointed 3 different persons to take charge of the 3 different clans of the Eggon. After that, the British government now organized, like, shall I say, kind of election, and then they appointed or elected what's his name, Alhaji Abdullahi Ide, His Royal Highness, and to take over the affairs of the Eggon culture. And he was the 3rd indigenous Are Eggon. You could see that Yamusa was not regarded as Are Eggon because he was not an Eggon person. He was not indigenous Eggon person, so he was not regarded as an Are Eggon. After the demise of Abdullahi Ide, Bala Bazo became the Are Eggon, where he had a tie with my uncle, I would say, Adamu Musa Gale. After that, the Are Eggon was Balang Bazo. He became the Are Eggon. After his demise in 2022, then the new Are Eggon we have now is Justice, retired Justice Ahmed Ubangari Alaku. So this is the rundown of the history of the Eggon people. I'm an Eggon person. I believe this video will give a better clarification of who the Eggons are and why the Eggons are the way they are. Some people may want to ask me, so why are they scattered all over? Remember, they were formerly mountain dwellers. So they actually migrated from their mountains and they spread across. And that was why some of them spread down to around Lafia, some spread down to around Asakio, some spread. They spread and migration and the rest of the thing. So that's that. That's how it is. That's how the Eggons spread from the mountains of the Eggon or the Eggon Hills. Others refer to it as Mada Hills. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, kindly share this video. And if you have any question, please drop it in the comment section. If you're yet to follow my page, kindly follow my page. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate your time. I'm Eggon. I'm an Eggon person. I'll see you in my next video. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.